So howdy, folks. Welcome to the July edition of Cattle Trails Showcase. I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. Mighty glad to be your host. The purpose of the Cattle Trails Showcase is to continually highlight the communities, historical elements, museums, and other attractions along the historic cattle trails. Lonnie Steben, as our showcase chair, we appreciate your service, Lonnie. Cattle Trails Showcase was initiated 4 years ago by the International Chisholm Trail Association originally. Now is a project of the Historic Cattle Trails Consortium, which seeks to promote all the historic trails. The Chisholm Trail, the Western Cattle Trail, also known as Great Western, the Shawnee, and the Goodnight Loving Trails. We have a wonderful speaker today, but before we get into that, we have an exciting announcement as we prepare for the first ever National Cattle Trails Conference. That'll take place in October in the state of Texas. There's a special promotional opportunity coming up, and we've asked Bob Saul to tell us about that. Bob?
Give me just a moment to get my screen up, and I will be ready. Okay, I've got to share the screen, right, Ron?
Yes. Right now, we're seeing a black screen, so your video is not on, Bob.
Okay. Let me find Zoom. All right, there we go. Video is coming on.
I saw it flash. There we go.
There we go. Now let me share the screen.
Super.
All right, I'm going to start at the back if you don't mind. Ron, let me get over there. Okay, the National Cattle Trails Conference is coming up. Can you see it? Is it big enough on your screen? National Cattle Trails Conference is coming up October 24, 25 in Cleburne, Texas. We're hosted by the Chisholm Trail Outdoor Museum. And I can send this to you if everybody gets, will send me their contact, their email address. I'll send you this document in an email along with the others, so you have it in print. The National Cattle Trails Conference, we'll have the 5 historic trails represented: the Shawnee, the Goodnight Loving, the Chisholm, the Great Western, and the Western. And the organizations, well, our new nonprofit, Historic Cattle Trails Consortium Incorporated, is sponsoring this. And the affiliated historic trails are Goodnight Loving. These are the organizations: Goodnight Loving Trail Incorporated, Great Western Cattle Trail Association, International Cattle Trail Association, Shawnee Cattle Trail, Texas Chisholm Trail Association, and Western Cattle Trail Association. Our local host committee is Carrie Murdoch. Carrie, are you on? Is Carrie on today?
I haven't seen her.
She's got 2,000 people down at the museum this weekend, or more than that, so she's busy. She is the executive director of the Chisholm Trail Outdoor Museum in Cleburne, which is virtually 30 minutes south of Fort Worth. You take the Chisholm Trail Parkway, no stoplights between downtown Fort Worth and Cleburne. And Steve Myers here from Fort Worth with the Chisholm Trail Association is also, and then myself, the 3 of us. And then let me move to the next slide. Can you see that? Is that big enough?
Can you make it any bigger for me?
I can. Can you see that?
Much better. Thank you.
Better. Sponsors. We've got several sponsors. This doesn't list all of them so far. Sponsors buy an ad in the Celebrating the West magazine, and between 20 and 35% of that retail price of the ad goes to sponsor the conference. And the advertiser gets an ad in the magazine going to more than 10,000 people through retail stores across the West. And we're hoping to be able to get a major distribution along the trails themselves. The setup time on it is October 23rd, which is Thursday. We set up the chuck wagons, tents, tables, and so on. General public is invited. We expect between 150 and 250 people. Conference registration fee is $75 a person, or $90 a person after October the 1st. It includes the meetings in the Old Gringo Pavilion, continental breakfast and lunch both days. The tables outside the pavilion for all the trail groups, as well as vendors. And we're now getting vendors from all over the region, which would be mostly Western culture vendors, mostly gear makers and artisans, and some artists and authors. And let me enlarge this one so you can see it better. Our itinerary pre-conference event will be the Texas Trail of Fame induction ceremony and dinner at Billy Bob's, Texas, in the Stockyards, 6:30 p.m. on Thursday before the conference starts. And one of the 10 inductees this year is Captain John T. Lytle, who was the trail driver and rancher in Texas Cattle Raisers Association. He's the one that actually started the Great Western Cattle Trail in 1874. Tickets for the dinner, it is a fundraiser for them, are $150, and I still don't know. They'll have major entertainers there, performers. I do not know who they are at this point. Then Friday and Saturday is the conference itself in Cleburne. We have hotels, and I'm sorry I don't have there are 3 major hotels there, major brands in Cleburne, who are giving us a discount. We can email you that information. You need to call and use the code number or the name of the conference will get you the discount. And the website is historiccattletrails.com. So you can go there and get the information. They're still putting up information on the website. So I can email you all of this. All of this information is going up on the website between now and next Tuesday. So that's the conference itself. Now, I shared with you the fact that the sponsors get an ad in Celebrating the West magazine, which is about places, people, events, and stories and art of the West. It's and this is the purpose of the magazine. In less than 200 years, the first trickle of people from the old world to the new continent called America became a flood. Expansion in the first 13 colonies had nowhere to go except west. As early as 1833, advice was being given to go west, young man, go west. There's room away from our crowds of idlers and imbeciles. Go west and grow up with the country. And of course, that was Horace Greeley, the famous newspaper owner out of New York. And the West was vast. It was treeless plains, majestic mountains, mighty rivers, deep canyons. But manifest destiny was the mantra. Newcomers told the natives, the land is ours, we belong. Thus began the Indian Wars and the slaughter of over 500 million buffalo between 1830 and 1875. The beginning of the end came when Colonel Dodge declared in 1867, every buffalo dead is an Indian gone. A mere 7 years later, all the buffalo were dead and the Indians were gone from the American plains. 3 livelihoods developed as people moved west. The grazing culture saw the creatures on the land, the bison, the longhorn, and the horses, as life. Ranching grew. The plowing culture broke the sod, cleared the rocks, and fenced new fields for crops of cotton, corn, and wheat. Farming grew. The miners and loggers cut the vast forests and rushed to dig for coal, gold, silver, and oil. The harvesting of natural resources grew. But through it all, the cowboy, the American hero, captured the imagination of the West. Celebrating the West magazine explores the past and present and what's in between. How it was done then, how we do it now, the clashes of the cultures, our heritage we need to remember, and the tenets of culture, of the culture that made the West. 12 issues a year, more than 40 pages of articles and advertising. Each issue will give 20% of gross revenue to a Western cultural nonprofit. And this current issue, which comes off the press the end of the second week in August, then will be distributed to over 10,000 copies of it across the West. We also pay ad salespeople 15%. And if you, as a nonprofit, sell an ad, we'll be happy to give that 15% to your nonprofit or to the National Cattle Trails Conference. And that's on top of the gross revenue that the conference gets out of the whole deal. And we pay $300 to $500 for an article of 500 to 1,500 words and with images. And for this issue, we virtually have, it looks like most of the articles. If you want to send other articles, there are 12 issues a year. If you know authors who want to write for this magazine, any subject of the Western culture, both historical as well as present day, and anywhere in between. And at least 10,000 copies of each issue will be distributed through retail stores, museums, historical sites, and visitors bureaus. And we now have over 3,000, we know we'll have over 3,000 copies of this 10,000 issue going to the stockyards in Fort Worth through the retail stores there and the museum and other places in the stockyards at their request. So, and if anybody along the trail, any of you want the magazines, go to the website let me go to the next slide. This I can send you also. Let me enlarge this a little more. This is the sell sheet. And if you want to get people to advertise, I can send you copies of this in a PDF format. You can print it off. The people just fill it out. Here are the prices of the ads. This QR code will take them actually to the website itself. And if they use that QR code, they can claim a discount on their ad. Here are the ad specifications. They need to upload their ads to west7.com/magazine/ads by August 7. They can pay online at west7.com or make their check to west7.com and note it for the sponsor ad and mail it to this address in Fort Worth. They can also call and reach me with questions or our team. They can email us at team@west7.com, and they can also order copies of the magazine for distribution. If they buy an ad, we will send them whatever number of copies they request. If you don't buy an ad, we will send you 12 copies at a time to make sure that they do get distributed. 10,000 copies will be distributed, as I said, through retail stores, museums, historic sites, visitors bureaus in towns all along. We're going to specify all along the trails, but they're going also to all over retail stores in the West. Time for questions.
Bob, Nancy Lawrence, our ICTA secretary, has offered she would use our distribution list, which includes 200 to 300 people, to send this info out. So one easy way to do this, Bob, would be to get this info to Nancy and
I can do that. I can get her a package of info by email and in print if I need to. And I will talk with Nancy. If she will give me a phone call or an email, I'll get with her and we'll get that done.
Super. Appreciate that. Thank you. So
any other questions?
Bob,
Yes.
This is Nancy Lawrence. Just send me exactly what you want sent out and I will get that out. It won't take me but a couple of clicks.
I will do that.
Okay.
Very good.
And Bob, I have a question. This is Carolyn with the Shawnee Trail at Sedalia Convention and Visitors Bureau. Um, and I guess I'm a little, now, as far as if you get an ad, you have so many words for a story, or is that something different?
That's something different. The stories, and we need a story. We're going to publish a story on both a description of each of the 5 historic trails. So the Shawnee will get one place for a description, and I need that text sent to us so our editors can deal with it and edit it and size it and get it back to you for your approval. And then the second thing that each trail gets is an article. And that article basically it will be a 2-page article. So 10 pages of the magazine will be 2-page articles on each of the trails. And that needs to come with text as well as images, photos, graphics, maps, whatever you want to send us. And we'll squeeze those into 2 pages. I have some already which are 5 pages long, so we're going to have to edit, but we will get it back to you after we edit it and get your approval on it.
And Carolyn,
is that the part that's additional?
Yeah, that doesn't, right. That's the article, 2 pages.
and,
Okay.
and Carolyn, Doug Kibbers, I think, has already worked on an article,
Right.
actually.
Right. And I talked to Doug Kibbers, and and I know that, but I guess I'm still confused. Will we owe more money other than?
No. The articles and the description of the trails are free.
Okay. That's what my question was. Thank you very much.
All right. You're welcome.
Thanks. We better move on to our speaker, but my goodness, Bob and Carrie and Steve Myers have done such a terrific job in Texas of preparing for the conference, and we're very excited about it. Texas is rolling out the red carpet, so to speak. And speaking of red carpet, we have a tremendous tourism organization in north central and northwestern Oklahoma called Red Carpet Country Tourism. And Carla Burdick is the executive director of that group. She's an outstanding tourism professional who really leads that effort. So Carla, please tell us about Red Carpet Country Tourism.
Sure. I'm going to see if, while I'm talking, I'm going to try to get over here and see if I can share my screen. Red Carpet Country is a tourism group. We work with 16 counties in north central, northwest Oklahoma. That includes the Panhandle, kind of that red shaded area. And each year we put out a book that kind of covers our territory. Here's a map just of the red carpet part of Oklahoma. As you can see, there's the state there with the red shaded in. Back in the 60s, our state was divided into 6 tourism regions. And this was back before we had a state department for tourism, which they kind of deal with larger scale international travel and those kind of things, multiple state. We kind of scale it down where it's more of a regional. We reach out to states and the surrounding areas. And this map actually came to be when I was down in McAllen. I actually do travel shows. We kind of go with as a group. We have several Oklahoma people that will go together and do these shows. But at the show, I had a lot of people down in McAllen, Texas, the Winter Texan Show. These are people that come north. None of them go south, east, or west. They're all heading north somewhere. A good percentage of them were from Canada, but they all travel through Oklahoma twice a year. And they're always looking for something different because they say instead of trying to take the same trail each time. And they had said there's so many things that they didn't know existed. So I created this map so that they could have a visual. They were people that like to have it in their glove box. And so I do have it in a large scale, like a state map size. And at that same show is where the Chisholm Trail Guide came to be, because a lot of people were wanting to know more about that and the history and what to do along the trail and just where the trail was. In my book, I cover quite a few different things. We do have over 50 museums in our territory, everything from the Kenton Museum out, that's the highest point in Oklahoma, Beautiful area if you've never been to it. Boise City has a museum. We have the No Man's Museum in Goodwell. There is the Jones and Plummer Cattle Trail Museum in um, Beaver, Oklahoma, just right as you enter the Panhandle. Very interesting museum. If you've never been there, I encourage you to do that. And as you can see, there's just so many different museums in our territory. The Windmill Museum is one it doesn't even have to be open. It's an outdoor museum. The one in Woodward is the Plains Indians and Pioneers Museum, another fabulous museum. Freedom is kind of an interesting little place. They have a museum, and it's all their sidewalks and stuff are wooden, like an old movie set. And they have a building that is used for like the city pump or something, but it's turned into looking like a jail, which is really cute. The jail in Freedom, Oklahoma. So and then in Winoka, they have the Air Rail Museum. This is where they used to have an original Harvey House and a regional airport out there. Amelia Earhart was one of the people, and there's several others well-known people that used to travel and frequent that one. So the history on that one's kind of fun to hear. In Alva, they have one of the three Cherokee Strip museums. We are the largest area and the last land run of open area my territory is. And this used to be a hospital, and so each room is a different exhibit, kind of a neat little setup there. The Sod House Museum is another really neat one. It is an original saw house, one of the last original saw houses in its original location. The building has been placed on top of it to preserve that. At the Sand Creek Museum, that is in Fairview, in the fall, they actually have a thrashing bee and a two-cylinder show. If you enjoy farm equipment and farm life, I highly recommend that event. It is well worth it. Everything from the Astrobeam, all of our museums are so different. The Astrobeam, there was an Astrobeam that actually landed in Ames, Oklahoma. It's an open-ended museum. Once again, it can be visited at any time because it's open. And in that same town, they have the motorsport car, really cool collection. There's the Ferguson home in Watauga and the Chisholm Trail Museum. I'll talk more about that one in a little bit. And then over in Billings, there is, or let's see, let me get back to the top here. Sorry. The John Becker Museum is a military museum, and then there's the Cherokee Strip Museum in Enid. I'll talk more about that in a minute. The Leonardo's is a children's museum, a science museum, really fun for the kids and a lot to learn. The Railroad Museum in Enid has a fabulous collection. The guy he has everything, even from the china, a set of every piece of china, full set of every piece of china that was ever used on the railroad. Simpsons Museum is an old-time museum, used to be a store with the Simpson brothers, and they've turned that into a museum. They also had some areas in the back and upstairs that they used to use for their productions. They have the Skeleton Creek productions that they do. Fascinating people. They actually have some movies that they've actually won awards on. There's the Twister Museum, and which is up north in Waukeeta, and the 1893 Land Run Museum, which is in Medford, right along the Chisholm Trail. In Blackwell, they have the Top of Oklahoma Museum. And Conoco Museum is one that is more of an oil museum, obviously. And Marlin Mansion, if you've not seen that one, that's a must-see. Fascinating story, kind of strange story, but a fascinating story. And just that they built something like that in that time period is phenomenal. And right next to that is the Pioneer Woman Museum. They have had to change the name just a little bit. The Pioneer Woman cook has trademarked the name Pioneer Woman, so they had to adjust their name. I think they've added statue to it or something. There's also a separate location, the Marlin Home, the Grand Home, which is also in Ponca City. And It is a separate location, and the Standing Bear Museum. Ponca City is just full of museums. The Standing Bear Museum is the Native American history. They've got a fabulous park along with that, and they also have a lot of the powwows out there. So that's kind of, and then in Perry is the last Cherokee Strip Museum, and they do some really neat blacksmith events out there. But this is kind of what our guide looks like. It kind of talks about the different things in the area. We do have several state parks in our area. As you can see, the Black Mesa is quite a ways away, but the rest of them are within 30 minutes of each other. Everything from the Alabaster Caverns to the Boiling Springs to the Little Sierra, the Sand Dunes, the Gloss Mountains, where it's just beautiful. It's free to hike to the top. The Romano State Park is another beautiful park. And then at the Salt Plains, you can actually dig for salt crystals. And you take your own bucket, your own shovel, you get to keep anything that you find. And just some neat little, like I said, everyone is so different. And then my guide actually goes through and just talks about the different areas. In this one, there is the picture that shows the different regions of Oklahoma, so you can kind of see how we're split up there. But this one just goes through each of the different communities and talks about those. If you're interested in getting this, you can get it on Travel OK site, or I'd be happy to mail it out to you. In the back of it, there is the Buffalo Point. I'll mention that real quick because I don't have that in my slideshow. That is in Waukomis. It's right along the Chisholm Trail. Beautiful place if you've got a large group of people. It's a large home. I think it can house up to almost 20 people. And so if you've got a larger group that's looking for traveling, a family get together, beautiful pool and things that go along with that, and an event space that comes along with that. So that's kind of a fun little thing. In the back of the book, there is a list of events so that you can kind of see if you're coming during a certain month, what there is to see and do, so that you don't miss something while you're out here. And then on the very back, it does talk about our tourism conference, which I'll kind of go ahead and mention now. We do in August. It's on August 19th in Kingfisher. We do an annual tourism conference, and this is just a time where we have speakers out. They talk anywhere from branding, outdoor tourism, how to revitalize a downtown. We've got the fella that does Old Home Rescue coming. He's had TV shows and things. I don't know if you've seen him, but some neat, just kind of a variety of things, how to partner with career techs. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll be happy to get you a brochure for that. And so that's kind of my guide. And then I have to get out. This thing makes me stop sharing, I guess, and reshare. And what I'm wanting to show you now is the Chisholm Trail one. And this is the guide that I started, like I said, from the McAllen show. This one is not out yet. We're still working on it, but it is kind of what I'm wanting to cover. In Oklahoma, obviously the trail starts in Texas, ends in Kansas, but you have to get through Oklahoma. So this is the trail as you go through Oklahoma. It does have where you can kind of, as you can see, where there's a little fork there where you can go different directions. Also, you'll notice on that map that kind of just off to the left, there's a little town called Gary. I'll talk more about that just in a little bit, but highly recommend that if you go to Gary and then up to Romano's, the Watonga area, and come back over around Kingfisher, that would be the route that I would go once you hit like El Reno, because there's a great history about the Chisholm Trail in Gary. There is an annual chuck wagon event. This is put on by the museum in Kingfisher. It is a really neat event, pulls in a lot of the chuck wagons. It's free to attend, and there's lots of food and different things you can have, that you can sample there. As you go through my book, there are lots of little slideshows. This Dr. Lynn Phillips is the one that narrated the shows that I'm going to show. And there's little QR codes in the book that you can actually do. So as people are traveling through our area, they can actually click on those QR codes, and it will take them to a little story so that they kind of have their own little guided tour guide as they travel through the red carpet country region. And there is information in here, a little story about Jesse Chisholm. There is also information in here about Bob Clemmy. He is obviously the one that made the little markers in Oklahoma. I know many of you probably know him or have heard of him. His son, Mike Clemmy, has a little office space. It's called Bob's Barn, and that's where my office is. So, a kind of a unusual story, because when I first started, I did not know too much about the Chisholm Trail. I had followed Chisholm Trail. I mean, I've heard of it, obviously, living here, but and as a child, I can remember on the 125th year where they did the Chisholm Trail, where it went all the way from Texas up to Kansas. And I remember taking my kids and doing that. So it's always been part of the heritage and the culture here. But I've really learned so much since I have started this position about 7 years ago. And but I didn't know much about what Bob had done. And one of my things on my list is to try to get, I'm going to unshare here again and try to get back in here. One of the things I am wanting to do is actually go through and each of his little markers, I am wanting to be able to identify where that is, and we'll see if this is going to work. I want to actually put together a map. I know Kansas has something, and I'm wanting to do something similar to that here, but and find out which ones can be visited by the public, which ones are on private property, which ones have been destroyed, or what has happened to them. So let's see if this is going to let me do this. There it's going. Okay, and hopefully you can hear it. Are you able to hear it?
I'm not hearing the sound.
Not hearing it. Let's see.
Looks cool.
Well, maybe that's not going to work. I've got my volume all the way up, so if you're not able to hear it, I'm going to go ahead and back out of that. It's just talking about where the cattle trail went, and I'll let you just watch it because it is kind of cute. But if you're interested in getting the guide, you can click on the little links and can watch those for yourself.
Wow, that's really cool.
All right, we'll go ahead and back out of that. Okay. All right, and so now I'm going to kind of go into a little more information about the area along Chisholm Trail.
There we go.
And so if you're needing my information, there is that information. I've got some background music. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get out here for just a second. My video didn't stop. Okay, now sorry about that. It was, are you still on my screen? I feel like can you still see the video, the slideshow?
We can.
Okay.
We're seeing the future slides on the left there. So
okay, let me get back into that. figure out how to get out of this. I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Now I'm back in business. That in and out, it makes me go unshare and then share each time I'm wanting to get in something. So that's a little confusing, but makes it hard. But here's my information. If anybody would like a copy of this book, it will be out in the next 2 months, and I'd be happy to send those out to you. We mail those out for free. And kind of like I said, you got to see it, but along the trail, you will see a lot of the markers that the state has put up that kind of talk about the Chisholm Trail. The markers that Bob has put up, you will find along there. And then there's a lot of just artwork, whether it be murals or metal art and those kind of things that come along the trail. One of the first big markers that you'll see is this monument. It is right outside of Addison, and interesting little spot. One of the cattle drovers, Drover Tim, loved the Chisholm Trail, wanted to be buried along there, and they honored his wish. And so his gravestone is just in the same area as this monument. There is a little bit of a dirt road there. About the last half mile is dirt, but the rest of it is blacktop. Just off of Highway 81, an interesting little place to go. This purpose of this monument on here is as the cattle came across the Red River, they lost a lot of them, as you're probably well aware. And so this was one of the locations where the head of the cattle drive could actually go to the top, and actually as they kind of what they called squeezed down and kind of went into single file or smaller amounts going through the ravine, they could actually count them and they could see how many cattle they lost coming across the Red River. So it's kind of a fun little thing, a beautiful area. It is just a small hill, and I know I've been out there a couple times. One time I did have to park on the road and walk up it. Like I said, it's a small hill. It's not huge, but it looks way down in a ravine. But the little road, the little short road that goes up it, sometimes can be washed out a little bit. So if there's been a lot of rain and they haven't been able to get that fixed, that is just kind of a FYI there. The next main town there will actually be Duncan. And in Duncan, they have the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. This particular center has a really beautiful outdoor walking area. And this is one of my favorite Chisholm Trail statues, probably my favorite statue that I've ever seen, just because it's got so much going on. Every angle, it looks different. And like I said, it's definitely a must see when you're visiting. But as you're going through from this particular statue and all the way up to the building, they have on the sidewalk, as you're traveling along the sidewalk, you're traveling along the Chisholm Trail. It starts all the way in Texas and works its way all the way into Kansas. So that's kind of a fun little thing that they have. The museum itself has anywhere from a grocery store to information about Jesse Chisholm and different things. They have a beautiful art gallery in there, and with some wonderful things and some interactive information about it. They have some life-size mannequins that are animated that tell a cute little story about times during the Chisholm Trail. And then they have a theater where they show a little video. That's definitely one of my favorites there. I would encourage, if you visit, to make sure you see that. You want to sit in the center in about row 2 or 3. If you've ever been, you know what I'm talking about. But as you're watching this video, you smell the bacon and you feel the cattle drive and the stampede, and you see and smell everything along that trail. So it's fun. Also in town, they have several different, there is and I'm not going to go to it because I'm not going to get out. If we have time at the end, I will go out. The Duncan area, if you go to visit Duncan.org, they have a really nice visitor guide that talks a lot about Chisholm Trail and the things in their community. So if you're going to be visiting there, I highly recommend that you request that. As you're going along the trail, the next big community would be the Chickasha. They do have the Railroad Museum there, but they also have, if any of you have ever seen the movie The Christmas Story, where they have the leg lamp, the major prize or whatever you call it, they have a giant size one. I mean, it's taller than this building in this picture. It is up year round, so you don't have to just be at Christmas time, but at Christmas time, they do have a fabulous light show in that drive-through park. Just phenomenal. It's worth driving out to itself. But the leg lamp is there year round in their downtown. Their downtown area is really cute. They do have another museum down there I really found interesting. They've got some cute little buildings. A gentleman from California bought up like a whole block, and he has turned it into everything from stores to a little pizzeria and winery to a little hamburger joint. Just, I mean, it's just got a little bit of everything there. So it's a cute place to stop and eat and walk around and visit. The next major community along the trail would be Yukon. Now, if you depends on which way you go, if you head over the other direction, you may want to veer into Oklahoma City, which is just shortly off the trail. And there's some really fun things there. I kind of went the other direction on my slides. This Molly Spencer farm, some of you may be familiar with it. I know several years ago, maybe 4 years ago, you actually had your conference in Yukon, and they had a big event that features the Chisholm Trail, and it's at this Molly Spencer farm, but they have a lot of rich history there also. They do. This is a little bit of information about that particular event. They do have in Yukon is the Express Ranch, the Clydesdales, and I know Doug Sauter. He actually is usually at the festival and has some neat little things there. But the Clydesdales, the ranch itself, is open to the public, and you can actually go in and see the Clydesdales and visit the farm. You can either do self-guided tours, or they do have the self-guided tours are mainly just the barn, but they do have guided tours also. So something fun to do if you're traveling through there. The next major community would be El Reno. The neat thing about El Reno is it crosses with the Route 66, which is kind of a neat thing for us this year because of the anniversary for Route 66. So our hope is that using the Chisholm Trail and the information, we can get people, instead of just going east and west, we can get them going north and south and experience a little bit more of the central part of the United States. As I mentioned earlier, Gary, which is just a little bit further to the west of this, is where Jesse Chisholm is buried. His gravesite is there, and he is kind of they kind of have a lot of the murals and different things in that community, and he was very fluent in the 14 different Indian dialects, so he was able to communicate with so many of the Indians and was definitely considered a peacemaker. And but this is a picture of his site, and then at the same location is Chief Left Hand. He was another well-known person from that community, and so both of those grave sites, when you go out there, you'll be able to see both of those. The next major place, if you've gone over to Geary, I would encourage you to go up through Watonga and the Romanos State Park area, and then you could come back over and get back on the trail in Kingfisher. The Chisholm Trail Museum is being remodeled. It's currently called the Chisholm and is going to eventually be considered Oklahoma's Farming and Ranching Heritage Center. So that's kind of the story with them, but lots of rich history there. There is one of the markers there for anybody if they have not already seen one. They also have the Say Mansion, which was the first Native American governor. It was when Oklahoma was a territory, and this is his home. They also have an outdoor area with a schoolhouse and bank and lots of different cabins, and one of them happens to be the Dalton cabin. The mother of the Daltons, was her home, and they've moved it from Dover, just not too far away, to this museum. Also in Kingfisher, they have a mural in downtown that kind of is painted on the sidewalk that shows the path, and kind of is a neat little thing to walk through and look at because it gives you a nice visual. They have a nice statue of Jesse Chisholm, kind of with his peace pipe, because he was such a peacemaker, and so many of his talents with peacemaking were recognized politically and by the military, and so he is honored there. And this is the hill he's on. It's way up, like you can see. He's on the building. He's as high as the building. There's a better kind of view of how high they have that sitting up there. There's also just a few other statues and things along with that. In Kingfisher itself, they have throughout their downtown many statues. Now, this part of the state was actually a different land run from the Hennessy area. South was the 89er run, which was a little sooner than the Cherokee Strip one. And we had several different land runs, and this particular area, and so their theaters. Movie theater is called the 89ers, and that's why. Also in town, I mentioned about the chuck wagon event. They pull in chuck wagons from all over. Usually several dozen will come to this, and it's a really fun event, and you get to taste different things, and so that's highly recommended. The Bullfoot Station in Hennessy is a location that there was several different things that happened there. The Pat Hennessy, which I'm not able to show you the video, so but the Pat Hennessy is someone who had some goods and things, and the Indians attacked them, took the goods, and this is a statue of him in their kind of their downtown park. They actually have each September or October in the fall, anyway, they have a wine and chocolate festival, and that's what this picture is about. So if you're coming through at that time of year, very fun event. And then when you get to, I mentioned about Waukomis was in between there. If you're looking for a cute little community to get out and walk around, they have the cute little Buffalo Point, and they also have their downtown that's been revitalized and have a little restaurant down there called Moe's Place. She was the first woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and that was her hometown. So they have really put quite a bit of money in that little town, and so makes it nice for those of us that want to visit there. In Enid, they have an annual Cherokee Strip event, and they start the parade off each year honoring the Chisholm Trail. And so the Longhorns always open that parade before they get to the land run portion of the parade. And so it's a fun thing to see those cattle going through there. We do have, like I mentioned earlier, the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. Has several different statues there that are fun. They have the land run office, the original run office, one of the few left. This one was in the downtown, an original downtown, and then downtown kind of moved a little bit, and they turned this into a home. And when they were getting ready to clear off, I think it was the police station or something that was going in there, and they were going to demolish this. And as they started taking the siding off, they saw the letters on the side of the building and realized that this was history. And so they had moved the building over and when they took the wallpaper off and stuff, you could see all the stuff that had been in there. So they have it at the museum now. On the first and third Saturday of each month, the Chisholm Trail Regional Heritage Center has an event in their outdoor living space, the Humphrey Heritage Center, and they have live reenactments where they have people out doing things. There's a person that's manning the land office that explains that. There's a person in the Glidewell home that explains all the stuff that you're seeing there. You can taste things and do things and grind corn, and there's a school marm there that day, and just lots every week, every time they have it, it's just a little bit different, but really a fun time if you're going to visit and can make it on the first or third Saturday from 11 to 3. That is a fun event. And right next to this is the Government Springs Park. This is a natural spring. This is a well-known place for the cattle drives to have stopped. The spring is you can see the stairs going up around it. That's where the spring comes down. Off in the distance in the one picture, you can see that they've put up the metal cattle. So you can kind of see that. Also in town, there is Garfield Furniture has made this really cool mural. It's 3D because it's got the metal that kind of comes off of it, so it makes it kind of pop off the wall. There's also the settler there. One I don't have on here is Boomer. There's a Boomer, real neat statue downtown of Boomer. I had mentioned about the old time museum with the Simpsons and the Skeleton Creek. I do have a video in my book that talks more about that. And there's also in there, if you have an opportunity to look at that, I don't have it in my slides, but the marrying tree is one of the slides in there. And it's between Hennessy and Enid. Hennessy and Waukomis, actually. And there's a tree, and it still stands there. There's a marker. And that is the tree that if Enid was the main place, there was not a whole lot of other places to shop. And a lot of times people got their marriage license in Enid. If you got your marriage license in Enid, that's Garfield County. Or on the other side of that tree is Kingfisher County. So they had to get married in the county that they got it in. So a lot of times they would get married at that tree. And so that's the reason it's called the marrying tree. However, the other neat thing about that tree, and that old tree did kind of finally rot, but they put another one. There's a one that came off of it that is now still there. And so it's still marked. But going south of there is the 89er run. That's where they lined up for that run. And then that's also the same place they lined up, obviously, to come into the Cherokee Strip Land run. So that tree kind of has a lot of different, and there is a video in my book that will show you some of that information. And I might try to see the same little email that I sent Ron. I will try to get that over to Nancy and send those to you so that you can actually have those links without even having the book. Also in here, this little watering trough was one that was from the original downtown. It's a horse trough, and it's just right across the street from that mural there at Garfield Furniture. That red building behind it is Garfield Furniture. Kind of some neat history in there. They supposedly used to be a hotel, and that is where Oswald supposedly died. So there is a room designated to that. So if you do get there, ask to see it. They will take you on a tour of that. And then as we get up into the Pond Creek area, there are some additional markers up there marking some other locations. And in between these two, there is the Skeleton Creek. Once again, there is a video in there about the Skeleton Creek. The Indians got cholera and were around at this creek, and so many of them didn't make it. And for years they were finding the skeletons there, and that's why it's called Skeleton Creek. So, but there is a video that he says it much better than I do. He does a very good job. So, but these are in Pond Creek in Grant County as you're getting up closer to the Medford area. There is the museum there in Medford, as I had mentioned, right along the Chisholm Trail, and several other neat things to see in Medford. Medford is one of the communities that really embraced our last cattle drive. that we had for the anniversary in 17, and they had a big downtown event where the kids could churn their own butter and do different things. So that's just some fun things about that. The last cattle trail we had went through and did go through Medford, but each time when they have them, they get a little bit shorter. It's hard to get openings and doing that. This is the cattle run in cattle drive in 17, just some of the covered wagons that were heading out to go through Medford and set up camp. Here's the cattle going through Medford. I've got lots of pictures from this, so if anybody ever needs those, let me know. Here are a few of the pictures from the camp. This is just one of the 4 nights that they did, heading up there to Abilene. I believe, I'm not sure where this one ended, but they would set up camp, and this is them setting up in the middle of a field out there. They would corral the cattle and have camp. This was in 2001. The Caldwell, Kansas was having a big event, and they started their cattle drive just to the south of Medford and went up through that area. So, and then as you get up there, you'll get into Wellington, and they've got a neat little Cherokee Street Museum there. They did partner with us on our last guide. Here is my information if anybody is needing that. And I thank you for giving me the time to present. And I hope there was something in there that you didn't know. So, any questions?
Carla, thank you so much. As someone commented in chat, so many museums, so many attractions, tremendous resource there. Looks like, Gary, you have a question?
I do. I was wondering, Carla, or anyone else that's listening, I've been trying to find a really good book about the Oklahoma land rushes, and I know there were a couple of them at least, and there may have been more. You've mentioned 2 of them today, Carla. And I was wondering if you or anyone else knows of a good book or several good books that tell that story with some degree of detail and accuracy.
There are several out there, and I can send you that information. I know our Cherokee Strip Museum has several of those in there, and so does the Kingfisher Museum. They actually, in their bookstores or their gift shops, have some of those. And let me, I'll get those for you, and I will get that information to you.
That would be great. I guess, Nancy, you can help facilitate that.
Yeah. And I put in the chat.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
Carla's,
that's right. I can do it
Carla's
myself. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, this is Steve Myers in Fort Worth, Texas. I met Bob Plumbing back in the 1980s, and we worked together on the Chisholm Trail. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I have some brochures here. Here you go, that we put together, and over the years, the groups that we worked with in Oklahoma have moved on. And in the several years, nothing has really happened with interfacing with Oklahoma. And it'd be great to work with you on doing some of the rack cards. We worked to get, this is the 3 states here that came together and did this brochure at the visitors centers at the borders of Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas. And then for the 150th anniversary, this is the one that was done in Oklahoma. And we came together and worked on these. This is the one that was done in Kansas, and we all came together and worked on that. In Texas, we did, this is the first Chisholm Trail brochure we did through the Texas Historic Commission.
It's very nice.
And this is the second one that we've done. And I was honored to be on the board of the Texas Lake Trails region here with the Texas Historic Commission. And we put this guide here together. There's 10 regions in the state of Texas, and I was on the board of the Lake Trails regions for about 10 years. And we put this all together similar to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be really great if we could all come together and work together like we did about 10 years ago. and celebrate the history of the cattle trails, and come up and work with some of the rack cards that go in the travel centers as you go into all the different states that have the cattle trails.
That would be great. And I do know that last rack card you have, I have a few of those left. I've been trying to hang on to those. I know that was about the time that Rob was and Marcy were on,
Right.
and they were the ones that were very instrumental in getting that going. And at that time, Stacy, now she's
Oh, yeah.
not
Yeah.
in the museum anymore. She's over in Shawnee. So
Yes.
that was right as I was coming on to this. So I kind of didn't get in on all of that, but would love to see what we could do and tie it all together. I do know when I was down in McAllen, the first book that I came out with on the Chisholm Trail, people were coming hunting it down, and it was the same year that you came out with your brand new one, and it was perfect because they could come up through Texas and then head up through Oklahoma, and we're able to kind of make a connection. But it'd be nice if we could have it all together. I know yours was done by your historical society. I wish ours would do that, but they didn't, and so after asking the state and different people to do it, that's when I finally said it. We need it. We need it. It's something
Well,
to be done.
this one here was done by Oklahoma Museum of History and the Oklahoma Tourism and Department, that we all came together and worked together. Are you going to be at our conference coming up in
I'm
October?
hoping to. Yes, I'm hoping
Great.
to.
Yeah, it would be great to talk with you on these projects where we could take all the cattle trails and work together and support one another with the tourism and the history of the trails.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you. You did a great job.
Well, thank you.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Steve. And you're right. Hopefully the Historic Cattle Trails Consortium could be a facilitator for bringing that together and making it happen. It is after 11, folks. Let me ask Lonnie what we have on tap for our next Cattle Trails showcase.
Well, first I want to make a comment. You need to get off I-35 and hit the back roads. As Carla's pointed out, all the way. And you really get to see some things that you don't read about in books, and you get to experience the real story sometimes in the little towns. So Carla, I appreciate what you've done. In August, we're going to go to the Trails End. Michael, you might have to help me. Trails End and LX Bar Ranch. And can you tell us a little bit about that, Michael? I think you're muted.
Did we get it?
Yep.
Trails End is a Wyoming State Historic Site. It's the mansion built by Texas cattleman John B. Kendrick, who eventually became state senator, U.S. senator, and governor of Wyoming. But he had ranches in northeastern Wyoming and southeastern Montana. Built Trails End at Sheridan, and the young lady who's the director curator there also manages on some level the interpretation of the Kendrick ranches that are still being operated. One called the OW in southeastern Montana, and the other one called the Hanging Woman. It's a pretty spectacular piece of preservation, because unlike most historic buildings like that, historic sites, furniture is usually gone. In this case, everything's still in it. And it was built in 1913, state of the art. And he was often referred to, Governor Kendrick was often referred to as Montana's third senator, because he fought for Montana as much as he did for Wyoming, especially ranchers' rights. But he started out as a drover in the 1870s, going up the Western Trail. Went up 3 times and eventually stayed. And it's a fascinating story. And Cherie Shada is the director up there. And she gave me a tour when I was up there a few months ago, and it's absolutely fascinating. She's top drawer and a native Kansan as well. So she'll give us a great program. Hope that was okay to step on your toes like that, Lonnie.
No, that's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's super. So join us on Friday, August 8th, second Friday, for our next Cattle Trails showcase. Carla, thanks again for a terrific program. Round of applause for Carla for an excellent program today. National Day of the Cowboy is July 26th, so watch for your local events and participate in that. And Mark those calendars for Cleburne, Texas, October 24 and 25 for the first ever National Cattle Trails Conference. With that, this is Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate, saying thank you for taking time to join us in this place, and join us next month for our next Cattle Trails Showcase. Happy trails, everyone.
Thank you.